All right, I'm going to do a few lessons on Countdown by John Coltrane. Ways of practicing it, ways of thinking about it. How do we improvise over something that's so complicated and usually played around 300, 320, extremely fast? So the first thing I'd like to do is talk about simplifying the changes and grouping each cadence of the tritonic system into minor pentatonics. You can think about them in terms of major pentatonics, but I like thinking of the relative minor. So I'm going to point this out here, how this works. So first of all, in beats 1 and 2 of each 4-bar phrase, we have this 2-chord E minor in this case. That we will address as just the triad. So when we get to this bar, we will improvise using the 3 notes of the triad. You could use the E minor triad for this, the G major triad, or the B minor triad for that, but you're basically thinking of 3 notes. And then in the next 4 beats or 2 chords, we will be using the D minor pentatonic, which is the same as the F major pentatonic, however you want to think about it. And then for the next 2 chords, this cadence, D flat 7 to G flat major, we'll use the B flat minor pentatonic, or the D flat major pentatonic, again, however you like to think of it. And then this next last cadence in the first 4 bars, A7 to D, we've got 6 beats of the F sharp minor pentatonic, or the A major pentatonic. So we do the same thing in the next 4 bars, C minor pent, G sharp minor pent, E minor pent, and then the next 4 bars, B flat minor pent, F sharp minor pent, D minor pent. And this, again, this second or third system is the same as the first system in terms of the tritonics that it covers. The keys of B flat, G flat, and D, and here we have B flat, G flat, and D. So it is really in 6 keys, and so I usually spend a lot more time practicing the second 4-bar phrase because it's the one that you get less time on, the A flat, E, and C major section. The last 4 bars you could play B minor pent for 1 bar, D minor pent for 2 bars, C minor pent for 1 bar. Quick note, sometimes this last 4 bars is just C minor F7 B flat. I think that might be how Coltrane played it. To check, I can't remember. And then sometimes people instead play E minor F7 B flat A7, tritone sub here. Or maybe this is actually the tritone sub, and so they play the actual A7. Either way is fine. This progression is the way I learned it, similar to the first ending of tune-up, but you can play it however you want. And we won't spend a lot of time talking about this last 4 bars as it's the easiest part. Okay, so now we know one simple way of thinking of this in terms of pentatonics. A way to simplify it even further is to take the 5 notes of the pentatonic scale and create smaller note sets from that. The most obvious being just the triad. So the D minor triad can be used over F7 and B flat major. The B flat minor triad can be used over D flat 7 and G flat major. And the F sharp minor triad can be used over F7 and D major. And that is only 3 notes. But again, if we're playing at 300 and we want to have a lyrical kind of open way of improvising and actually improvise, that might help quite a bit. So when we have a triad or a 3-note set, we can play the notes 18 different ways in terms of the order of notes. We've got 3 inversions, root, first, and second inversion, and then 6 orders of notes for each of those inversions. So there's 18 triadic melodies, so it's actually quite a bit of material, and most likely we won't even touch all of those variations in multiple passes if we were just to use those triads. So the first thing I recommend, and which I'll demonstrate in the next video, is just improvising with those minor triads over each of these cadences. The second triad that works really well is using the major triad from the pentatonic. So the F major triad, the D flat major triad, and the A major triad. So then we have another simple way to use triadic melodies to improvise over a very complicated set of changes or quickly moving set of changes. And both of those triads, the D minor and F major, for instance, come from the D minor pentatonic. So we have basically a smaller note set from within the pentatonic scale, a triad. Then we can create some tetrads, or 4-note sets, or quadrads from the minor pentatonic. So just by taking the D minor triad and adding the 11, we get a nice 4-note set. It would be D, F, G, and A. And then once we have a 4-note set, the math of that in terms of melody, we have 4 inversions, 24 orders of notes per inversion, so 96 quadratic melodies. So again, we're getting to a robust vocabulary, let's say, with just 4 notes. And we're still simplifying quite a bit from the changes. So another nice note set is to take the F major triad and add the 9. So then we have F add 9, D flat add 9, A add 9, and again 96 quadratic melodies using that 4-note set, or quadrad, or tetrad, however you want to think of that. So that will be what we look at in the first several videos on improvising over countdown. We'll be looking at the triads, the tetrads, or 4-note sets, and then the entire pentatonic. And once we've gone through that, we will get into some other ways of practicing the progression. There's a bunch of really cool ways to deal with the progression there that you can work on for the rest of your life, and always be kind of keeping this tune in rotation and working on it. Okay, that's it for now.